Good morning, this is Paul, and as you can see I really like to graft dragon fruit. So as I've perfected this over time, I'm going to show you what I consider to be the best way to prepare your rootstock for grafting. And what I'm going to use today is this Dark Star. So my first step is I'm selecting a variety that grows very well in my climate. This is probably the most vigorous grower in the collection. And I've rooted this beautiful cutting. So it's a younger cutting, which I like to use from this season. And you can see that I've had it root for about 6 weeks. So now let me show you what I do next to prepare this Dark Star rootstock for grafting. Okay, so I want just one young new growth to channel all the energy upwards. So I selected that piece because it's going to be easiest to tie. So I like grafting to young rootstock, young growth, and this piece is going to be perfect in another week or so. So I like to just set it alone like that. That's going to be the first step, is to have a young stalk to really channel that energy, and I'm going to graft a seedling tip to this. So this is going to be perfect for what I want to graft with. So now the next step is I'm going to want to use these V-mouth scissors. Now these are used for cutting window weather stripping. If you search on eBay for V-mouth scissors, they're about 15 bucks on eBay. So now the fun part is where I'm going to want to remove the thorns. So all that energy will be channeled upwards to this graft that I'm going to do. So I'm going to carefully remove the thorns here with this tool. And I want to be careful because you can see it's really easy to remove a bit too much. So I'm going to stop the video and focus on this for a few minutes to do this very carefully to get this rootstock ready. Okay, so this last one here, I still like to cut these out where there was a new branch, just in case. I've had some new growth pop out above and below that. But you can see here now this rootstock is prepared. You can graft to it at the same time if you want, but in my humble opinion and experience, I think it's better to wait until this callus is over, because it kind of triggers a big wound response for the plant. But I've had success doing it both ways, so it's up to you. But I'm going to wait for about a week or so for this to heal in the greenhouse and let this new growth grow a little bit more. But that is how I select my rootstock now. And again, I think it's really important to pick a rootstock that grows very vigorous in your climate. I saw this online, I want to try it out, and basically it's a very strange way to graft dragon fruit, but it makes sense. So what they did is, I saw it in China and in Mexico too, is basically they took a sharp knife and they cut the stem first really quickly. So I don't know, I'm going to do this a little bit slower.
Take your time.
It's a little sharp here. But what they did is they cut the stem like that, and then they cut up above kind of where it calluses here all around with a sharp knife.
Yeah, just score it, right?
Yeah, they kind of scored it. This thing is really sharp though.
Just don't want to go too deep, but just deep enough.
Kind of above where the thorns are. And I'm scoring it all around. Really making sure that I have a good circular cut. And then what they did is they basically just twisted it and pulled. So twist it and pull, and there we go. We got it finally.
Nailed it.
So this is, we've tried it a few times, and now we figured it out.
Yeah, let's get a close up on that. So it's basically just,
you can see. So again, and now what we're going to do is try to graft this, doing this something similar. So let's go see. Okay, so now we're going to do a very similar method. I'm going to go into this plant here and cut it. Let's see, so it's about this long.
yeah.
So now I'm going to cut this stem.
I think this is a Vietnamese white dragon fruit.
So it should, and it's an aggressive grower, so it's great. And then now we're going to cut, again, scoring in the edge very carefully using a sharp knife. You don't want to go too far.
You want to go a little higher. A little higher?
A little higher?
Yeah, a little.
Okay.
more towards the top.
Yeah, you're right. That's a better.
You want to be on the north side of the callus.
We'll be right there. So I'm kind of right on the line. I think this is gonna work. Twist it, pull.
There you go, perfect.
There we go.
Yeah, that's clean.
Now we're gonna connect a sugar dragon to a Vietnamese white.
Perfect.
Nice,
Yeah.
get a nice connection, push it down. Whoop.
See what happens. You got to tape it now, yeah?
And now we're gonna tape it. Okay, so that's a good connection.
Here, I can try to hold it for you.
I got it. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tape it down. In this case, we're gonna tape it up, I guess.
Let's see if this takes. We'll do an update on this.
There we go. Let it go. See if that's sturdy.
I feel like it might need a little more.
Let's tape it up really well.
Yeah, tape it up
And the
good.
key is what they did online is they did not want to get air into
Didn't they
where the
wrap it with...
connection was. They wrapped it with plastic. I'll do that in a second.
Oh,
They
okay.
kind of did something more like this. And then they wrapped it with plastic.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and do that. And then we're going to bag it and see if it takes. And this is a mature kind of stock of sugar dragon. And they just wrapped it up like this. And again, the key thing is they wanted no oxygen kind of in there. So
Just limit it a bit.
there. And they tied it just with kind of plastic. So I tied it up nice and tight. And then what we'll do is we even put a bag on it. Help it callus over. And hopefully it will take.
Hopefully that's long enough.
There. So what I can do is kind of tape it tight. And we'll be good to go.
Sweet.
And leave this tape for 2 weeks. I think, Scott, if I were you, since this is outdoors, I would probably put a paper bag over it so it doesn't get any sunlight. And hopefully this is going to work.
Hopefully it won't rain anymore.
Well, right now it wouldn't matter because we got it all protected. So
Yeah, my bag will
the
get all
warm weather
swampy.
though would help and aid
Swampy
this.
bag.
There. So nice and airtight as much as possible is going to be key for this. And hopefully it takes.
Yeah, that's a really cool method. I mean, if you could see how efficient that would be if you got really good at cutting it.
Yeah, I definitely think that this was one of the easier strategies of grafting that we've attempted so far.
Yeah, this is like the old school method.
There you go.
They've probably been doing this for hundreds of years.
Yeah, and it seemed to be really effective. I saw this online using a drill bit. So we're going to try to cut this sugar dragon rootstock, drill into the stem, and then we're going to have a stem here and fuse them together. I saw it online in Spanish, I think it was, or in Central America, and a man was doing it this way and had success. So I thought I'd try it. So first step is I want some of this stalk. I'm going to cut it right about there. And then now I'm going to shave and kind of make a flesh to stem cut. Try to get that cambium layer where the cells divide, the active growth. And man, since this is a young cutting, it's really hard to do because the stem's not very well developed. It's not very thick. It's very weak and flimsy.
Yeah, this is just like a practicing. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it.
Yeah, but it's possible. So if you saw somebody do it, we can try it. Okay. So it's basically like that. Did cut a little more off there. This may not work, but it'll be fun to try.
You gotta experiment, right?
Actually, it might work. Alright, so he did something like this, but he had a more mature rootstock. And then what he did was he cut up here. He took a mature rootstock, cut it horizontal, like so. And then what he did is he drilled down, straight down that cambium layer. Not that deep. He did it by hand, and then he just fused them together. So I can tell I need a little bit bigger hole.
But you don't want to go too deep, right? Because they
No.
got to touch.
So I kind of did that. And then he just stuck them together, and he had success. So let's see. There we go.
That looks good.
There. So now we're going to want to tape it down. Actually, I'm going to cut this condor even shorter. I think that's too much growth for it, so I'll probably cut it.
Oh, sorry.
Actually, what do you think? Should I leave it? It's got a lot of energy. I'm going to leave it. I don't want to cut it shorter. I'm just going to tape it down really tightly.
Yeah, maybe just leave it for now.
And then we're going to have to use a really big bag. So we don't have a gallon size handy, but if we bag it, it should work. But anyways, the gentleman did this, and he had several examples of success. The only difference is he drilled it by hand, but I think this power drill should do the same.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll give it an update and see what happens.
Definitely a nice tight fit, I'll tell you that. And we'll give it some time.
Logically, it seems like it'd be a good way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways to graft these varieties of dragon fruit. Seems like every time you look on the internet, there's a new way. So again, we have a nice connection. Now we do want to bag it and leave it in the garage or in the shade for 2 weeks. I'm going to put it in the garage at my house because it's nice and warm as the winter temperatures come in. So it's probably not the best time of year to graft in the winter in Southern California. But as long as you keep it in your garage or in a warmer environment, even in your house in the shade, it would work. So we're going to bag it for 2 weeks and then pull it off and see if it took. Let's talk about my experiences with different rootstocks and grafting so far. Now this is my favorite rootstock. It's Sugar Dragon, and I actually have 2 varieties grafted to it. It's a Condor peg style graft, which is doing really well. It had some new growth, and then I've been plagued, as you'll see, by ants, and I think grasshoppers are flying into my greenhouse at night. Something nocturnal, some pest, and keeps damaging them. However, they're still thriving, you can see. So this is a 5.5 month seedling graft. I grafted it in the winter, at the end of November, and even though it's been damaged, you can see it has a lot of new growth. It's really thick, and the spines are turning into permanent spines. Now, it's at least double the size of a regular seedling. Well, since I've grafted it, here are the seedlings that are not grafted, and it's easily double the size. Now, even with all this damage, you can see it's still bouncing back and has lots of new growth, and I have to support it a lot. So I've used several different rootstocks, and I really like Sugar Dragon. All right, let's go explore some more. Alright, so here's another seedling that I attached to Vietnamese white rootstock. That seems to be another great rootstock for grafting. It was rather mature, but it's still attached without a problem. Now here's another Sugar Dragon. I attached a Sugar Dragon seedling to a Sugar Dragon rootstock, a very young one, just to try it out. And to me, that was probably the best case scenario. This rootstock was very young, and I would probably say maybe 6 months, and that seems to be my perfect preferred rootstock. So Sugar Dragon seedling attached to a Sugar Dragon. Now I noticed the pests have not damaged this one, probably because the pest that I'm battling, probably because it's very spiny, so maybe they don't have access to this. But either way, you can see it's a very beautiful seedling graft. I love how spiny it is. Alright, here's a yellow Pelora that has been damaged by ants, but it's bouncing back. So I just keep it in my greenhouse. I'm constantly battling pests from coming in, especially now there's a nocturnal pest. I still haven't figured it out, but I found some grasshoppers out in the yard, so I'm guessing it's them sneaking in somehow. Super annoying. Alright, here's another Pelora seedling graft with slight damage, but again, these rootstocks have been wonderful. The one that I just talked about on the left is a unknown red variety, so it seems a little bit slower to grow, and the one you're looking at right here is Haley's Comet rootstock, which is another rootstock I really like for using to graft dragon fruit seedlings. Now, this one is the one that, if you saw how the ants damaged our grafts, this one was the one I didn't think would make it, and it's physical graffiti on Haley's Comet rootstock. Now they ate it at the stem, and you can see it just has vigorous growth, and it's still surviving. So I'm just going to let it be, and I'm not going to prune that one out. Halley's Comet. All right, here's another red variety. It's unknown, and it's been a pretty nice rootstock to graft with. Now, I got some of this just for free, and I just wanted to experiment with it. Although I would, in my experience, say these red variety rootstocks are hardy, but they tend to be a little bit slower to grow. Here is a very large cutting that I used as rootstock, a Vietnamese white. And sometimes this happens with a graft. It may look like the seedling's not going to take, or it may die, but it will shoot some new growth right inside there. Hopefully we'll get to see it. So that can happen as well. That's a very, here's a El Grullo. I used El Grullo as a rootstock, and I don't think I'm going to do that again. It's really, really slow in my experience, but I'm sure it's going to be super hardy. So you can see again, the main stem kind of died, or broke off or dried up, but it does have a successful union, and there is a new growth shooting off of that graft. Here's a very small graft, the smallest I've done yet, and we'll see how it does. Now this rootstock is, again, this one's a delight actually, so it should be awesome as well. So my favorite rootstocks, the ones I've used so far, and again, you may have different rootstock needs because of your soil or your climate, but I really like Hylocereus undatus, or a Vietnamese white, and Sugar Dragon. Good morning, everyone. We've had some questions and requests for more information on our grafts. So some of them are approaching 8 months old. So let's go show them off and let you know how they're doing. So I'll start off with my oldest one, which is Halley's Comet here, which I like. I really like that rootstock, and my Dark Star. So this was a cleft style graft, but I should have used more of this plant matter, but it was an experiment. It was my first try. So as soon as I saw, I want to say about 5 weeks ago, some growth when it was kind of warm, I saw a little bud popping out, and so I put it in under our grow light, and you can see it's just taken off. I give it a little bit of full sun. I'm starting to introduce it to more sun, I should say, like 3/4 of the day, and it's doing really, really nicely. I almost wish I had like some shade cloth, or we have a greenhouse. I may just toss it in there, but we'll see. But either way, very, very, very vigorous growth, and I find it very interesting how there's little leaves there, and just the shape of it and the structure. So I'm interested to see what happens as it gets taller and longer. Okay, so up next will be our seedling here, our Sugar Dragon rootstock, which I think is another really good rootstock, but I have had more success with Halley's Comet. So this was an Orahona cross seedling on an 1129. So it is exactly 3 months today, and you can see there's 3 beautiful new growth there, and this is the original piece of the seedling. So I didn't know what to do. I just left it alone, and you can see it's getting bigger and bigger every day. In addition, this has a condor, which is a peg style graft attached to it, and there's no new growth, but it's doing really well. It's on there tight. I have no concerns. Some other seedlings I have in various stages. Here is most of these are Halley's Comet rootstock, but this is a yellow Pelora seedling, and the little hairs there on the top are a really good sign that this thing's doing well. And it's been about 15 days or so on these ones, so nothing there. And then here's one that's about 6 weeks, and it's got a bit more like hair on the top, on the tip there. So I don't know if you can see it. Kind of doesn't want to focus too well on there, but there are a bunch of little kind of hairs there. I'll try one more angle. Come on. So hopefully you can see that. There we go. So that's a good sign. This one I did get a little bit of sunburn right there because I had it out in too much sun. So they do better in the grow light or in a part sun environment, or mostly shade. You just want to slowly introduce it to more sunlight. Up next is our euphorbia here, a coral cactus, and you can see it's plumping up, it's on there. We use some super glue to help keep it on. That's doing fine. And when you see new growth like this on the rootstock, you want to just get rid of it. So all the energy is channeled to that new graft. So this one seems to be on there really well, and it's starting to get a little bit thicker, it looks like. So very interesting to see what this does this summer. Up next is another peg-style graft. Here's two more peg-style grafts actually. Haley's Comet rootstock, and this is an unknown variety of my neighbor's. And here we go, look at that. I got some new growth on it. So it's taken off. So hopefully we'll find out what on earth this variety is. It's been in a very shady environment for I think 5 years. No fruit or flowers. And then last but not least, here we go. This is our sugar dragon with Vietnamese that we also did 1129 at Scott's house. So it's been really slow to root, this mature cutting. So a younger rootstock is going to be more vigorous and faster in my opinion. But it's on there, it's not going anywhere, and it feels slightly thicker. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so first I'm going to clean my knife with rubbing alcohol. It's 90%. And the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to twist this off and pull it off of the fruit. And now I'm going to try to do a horizontal graft on this tiny little piece here. I noticed that I need to be really careful and try to save at least one thorn if I can. So it's going to be really close. So let's give it a shot. All right. So here I go. I'm going to just cut it straight down as nice and neat as I can. It's kind of woody. There we go. And this is going to be questionable if it works, but it's going to be worth a shot. I'd love to have some of this DNA. So now I'm going to leave it there really carefully. Come up here. Use this new rootstock here with a new growth. And I'm going to cut it a little lower since this is more woody and heavier. And now try to line it up as best as I can and hope for the best. So I will tape this down. And this may just work. Actually, I want a bigger piece the first time. So I know that that's a pretty, I had a really woody core there, so that should be a nice union. Uh-oh. I guess I'll go ahead and get it down one more time. It's a lot harder than you think. Let me just check one more. I think that might just take. So I like to tape mine pretty heavily for about 2 to 3 weeks, and I place them in full shade in Southern California. Now if it gets chilly, I'm even going to put this in my greenhouse at night to keep it warm. And again, full shade for about 2 weeks. I used to bag them, and now I don't. So I think I want to use, I know it looks like a lot of tape, but I really want this to be successful. Pull that little tip down and try to have it just a nice union. So there you go. That's the most, that's the biggest piece off of a fruit I've ever had to try to graft. So this is the first possible graft that will be successful from a piece of fruit.
Yeah, and if you have like fruit to pick from and you see, inspect them, maybe you get a little piece.
Yep, and you know what? Out of that whole box, that was the only one that had that tip. It looks like the fruit was growing off the tip of the branch. And so I got lucky with that piece. So we'll see if it takes. We'll know in a few weeks. And hopefully we'll have some new growth out of that one spine right there, that aerial right there. That is kind of what is the goal, is will that take? And that is what I'm going to be looking at right there. That's why I left it exposed. Hey everybody, this is Paul. And today I'm going to try to save what's left of this little piece of axe. It had 2 long pieces which I saved, and then the stem was getting rotten. It just kept going up and up, and it got worse and worse. So today I'm going to try to attempt to graft this onto a mature rootstock. I just cut this with clean shears, so that part is ready. And now I'm going to trim it off a bit and see if I can match these two. So you want to use rubbing alcohol, which I use. These are cleaned with it. I'm just going to give it a nice prune right above here. We'll see if that works. Should work. Okay, now I'm gonna make sure I get it nice and straight. Anything else, make sure I have that layer right there. The cambium layer is what I want to match up where the cells are dividing. And now I'm going to want to see how I want to match it up here best. Looks like that's going to work. It's not perfect, but actually that I think is going to work better. Okay, so now that I figured that out, I have my tape ready. And you want to tape it down really tightly. There we go. Again, you're better off, I should say not again, but you're better off using younger, undeveloped rootstock. It tends to be a bit more forgiving, but you can graft to a mature rootstock as long as you line this up correctly, which is the important part. There we go. Tape it nice and tight. There. And I like to tape it a bit more. Get a nice, using athletic tape here. Make sure you get it on nice and tight. And that should ensure a successful union, allow the plant to heal, and hopefully get a successful graft. All right. So what the next step is that you're going to want to cover it with plastic. It's on there getting tight. So a plastic bag. Let's see if frozen works well. That should work fine. And the next step is get it nice and tight. We'll get it on there a bit better. But once you have it nice and airtight, so I'll tape it up here. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Okay, so there you have it. There is Axe doing a flat graft onto Halley's Comet rootstock. So the reason why you want to bag it is because it will allow it to have higher humidity and to callus over more quickly. Also, we did a video on how to prepare your rootstock for grafting. So if you're wondering why the thorns are removed, you could check out our video on that. Basically, the reason why is it sends the energy upward to the graft. So today we're going to try to graft a seedling. So we have plenty of seedlings here, Orahona and American Beauty. And I'm going to take this American Beauty right here. Oh man, no I won't. Look at that, it broke off. Bummer. I'll take this American Beauty right here. Try this guy. But you can see how fragile they are. And I'm going to try to graft it to this young rootstock here. And I'm going to I want multi-varieties on this Sugar Dragon. So the reason why I'm selected this one is I want this young, fresh growth here. It's a new shoot. And so new shoots are very resilient. And they'll take a graft when I graft this seedling. So what I'm going to do first here is back here, Scott, I'm going to cut this as straight as I can. Right about there. And I'm going to apply a piece of tape to that in a second. Now, you do want to make sure you have everything clean. So I clean these with alcohol. And then now I'm going to cut this right about here. I'm going to try to pick the best angle so I don't hurt the plant. And just try to cut it vertically. So very young flesh cut there. And so now I'm going to tape this to this I'm going to tape the scion to the rootstock here, and I'm going to line up the cambium layer. So I got some tape handy here. I'm going to take that piece of tape here, and you got to be really gentle because it's easy to break the leaves here. So I'm going to tape it on, kind of match it up like so. There we go. There's half of it. And then now I'm going to tape very carefully the other leaf. Try to line it up here. It's definitely want to be very careful. It's very fragile. And tape it down. So not too hard, you don't want to break it. And looks like I broke it, so I'm going to try again here and get a new piece. So hold up, Scott, and let's try again. That is what happens sometimes when you mess up. So let's try now a different one and see if we could have better luck. All right, so I messed up, and now we have plenty of Orahona, and I think maybe it'll work better if I use a more mature.
Yeah, these are definitely bigger.
So I'm gonna try this one here. But again, you gotta be really gentle with these. And it looks so easy online, but man, it is hard. I'll tell you, I've done this 5 or 6 times, and I pretty much mess up every time.
It's one of those repetition things. You'll get better.
I think I'm just too rough. So all right, I cut it again. Now also I want to cut this again and have a nice fresh cut. So I just cut off a tiny bit. And then now I'm going to try again. Hopefully I'll be more successful with the tape. And now hopefully we'll be successful. So I want to line them up really well. All right, there's half.
Yeah, just get the first one locked in. Here, let me.
So much harder than.
Let me get a close up of that real quick.
Sure.
There you go. There you go.
Outside of the leaf here.
There we go.
Let's see if we have success.
Nice and gentle. Nice and gentle.
There.
Yeah.
So I'll put a little bit more tape, but again, I think if you put it on kind of the outside of the leaves, it definitely allows more flex and a better connection for the cambium layer from the scion. There we go. So it's looking really nicely matched, and now we just want to bag it for 14 days, 2 weeks, and leave it in full shade. And you'll know right away if it takes or not within, I'd say, a week. If it stays plump, it means it most likely is fine and it took. And if it kind of wilts, it means that it did not take. So there you go. You are going to have more success when you use a fresh, young dragon fruit rootstock cutting compared to using a more older, mature one like this. So again, young to young kind of works best. And then you want to keep it slightly open so it can still breathe, but this will improve the callousing and the healing with this higher humidity. That's the purpose of the bag, is to raise the humidity. So there you go. Let's hope it takes. And that is how you graft a seedling to a sugar dragon rootstock, and this variety is Orahona. And it only took us 3 times. Hey everybody, this is Paul, and today I'm going to do a little update on some grafts that I've done this week. And this first one here I got in the mail yesterday. It's hard to see, but it is variegated undatus. So this is some variegated dragon fruit, so I'm excited to see if this horizontal graft will take. Looks a little crooked, but it was on there, so I am optimistic. I've had a lot of success with horizontal grafts. Now here's a seedling tip graft that I did. This is the Trisha with Laverne pink pollen, so I'm excited to see how that does. I did that earlier this week. And then yesterday I had to graft this one. Now it is Chimera dragon fruit. Now it is a little dried out, but I'm hopeful that I can save it. It's very beautiful. The color, the purple is just stunning. So I did a nice little horizontal graft. Hopefully I will save it. It will be saved. I also have some more seedling tip grafts that are pretty interesting here. Look at that one. So I'm optimistic that is looking great. It's been several days. So we'll see. There's another one. But I really, really, really hope that this survives. So we'll keep you updated on the Chimera dragon fruit, which is a type of variegated dragon fruit, which is really beautiful. That color pink is stunning. And then this is the traditional variegated Hylocereus undatus. So there you go. Hopefully they will survive. All right, a 6-month update on my seedling grafts. They're getting big. Woo! So check it out. I wanted to show you kind of how the unions are, or where they connected. So the one on the left here I grafted November 29th. Today is July 6th. So a little over 6 months, and look at that. Now be aware, you do need to support the new growth. The stems are very thin at the base, and then they just get thick as you go up. So the new growth now is almost like I describe as like a new dragon fruit cutting. Look at that, it's beautiful. So this is an Orahona cross seedling, and each of these will be unique because they're cross-pollinated. Now the one on the right is from the same seedling batch, but I grafted it in March. So it's about 4 months old. So you can see the differences between a 4-month seedling graft and a 6-month. In addition, this one, I'd be really careful, or I am very careful when I move it, because you can see this union's not as strong, in my opinion, as the other one. Has the epiphytic roots as well, but it is growing and thickening up in time, so that's great. Now, if you don't support your dragon fruit seedling grafts, that's what's going to happen. They'll kind of flop down, and that is not what you want. So there you go. It's amazing to see these things grow and develop. Now, if all goes well, the one on the left will produce a fruit and a flower in 18 to 24 months time from this, when the seed sprouted. So by next year, hopefully, I should have hopefully a fruit and a flower. So check out the Asunta seedling tip graft. It's doing great. I can't believe how vigorous it is. Now, I've had a lot of questions recently and comments about rootstock. What is the best rootstock to use for grafting dragon fruit? And the short answer is whatever grows really well in your yard. Now, I've found some very vigorous varieties of unknown dragon fruit in and around San Diego. So I've been trying out about 15 types of rootstock, and I like all of them. However, I am a little cautious about Vietnamese white. And the reason why is because you could see, this is the first time I've had this sort of damage here, but it was just temperature related. So everything else in the greenhouse is great, but this was just not sun damage. It was about 115 in the greenhouse, and you can see it just cooked it. So I will not use any more Vietnamese white, but I really like using sugar dragon and different varieties of red dragon fruit and magenta. So guatemalensis as well. So anyways, my advice is just select something that really grows well in your climate and go from there. All right, now the good news is I'm going to take these cuttings from this graft and I'm going to go ahead and cut this open to see what happens for a pig graft union. So our next video, I will dissect this and we'll check it out. Man, this thing smells really rotted. All right, so let's go see how this union calloused over here, this peg style graft, and say goodbye to this Vietnamese white rootstock. Man, it stinks. So I took 2 viable cuttings off of it, and now I want to cut this or dissect it to examine what it looks like after it calluses over time or heals. So let me try to cut it right down the middle. I did not do that. I'll try again. All right, not a perfect dissection, but we can at least examine it. I think I need a much sharper knife, or like a samurai sword or something, but there it is. Look at that. How cool is that? I find it very interesting. Put it down so I'm not shaking. There you go. So what I see here is a really nice union. It's very woody through the pith and I guess the vascular tissue there. I wish I would have cut it a little bit more in the middle, but that was the best I could do. Here's the other half. So I definitely like how much it calloused over. It looks like it's really healed well. It's on there really strong. I guess I could try to pull it apart. Huh. So now it's down to that pith inside there. Very interesting. Well, let's check out this half of the peg style graft. I'll probably pull it apart now. Get it in focus for you. And let's see. Oh man, it's on there really well. I definitely think that's a sturdy graft. Look at that. So this was only on the plant. This graft was a successful union for about 4 months, 5 months tops. You can see that there's definitely, I want to do more of this style graft. It's just a really sturdy graft over time. Awesome. Sure do like cutting these experiments here, and I hope you like them too. So next time I'll get a much sharper, like samurai sword or something, and hopefully I can be more precise. Hey everybody, this is Paul, and we're going to do a 3-week update on our seedling tip grafts. So this is our first one that we showed you, and you can see it's growing really well. So the seedling tip graft method works. So here's number 1. Here's number 2. You can see that it actually had some damage here. Either I bumped it with a pot or a bug ate it, and so it's already shot out a new growth in just 3 weeks, which is pretty amazing. Now, ironically, the Maria Rosa that I grafted the seedling tip on failed. And that's the way it goes. And the reason why it failed, I'm going to show you, is that the core was too developed. So good news is I had a piece of Kathy Von Arum, and now I grafted that and it's looking pretty good. So in other words, if I fail with a rootstock, I can cut it and attach another graft. So this should be successful, but I'm noticing that you really want a very young cutting. So again, this is a very young cutting and the core was not developed. So I think that's the reason why this graft was successful. Now, I've done some more recent ones. You can see this one is definitely another successful union. So I was at 3 out of 4. And honestly, I'd have to read the label. I can't remember what type of seedling this is, but it is labeled and you can see that it's taking off. It's got some reddish at the tip and there is some new growth in there. So hopefully you can see that.
So red at the tip is like a good sign.
Yep, and you're gonna see some new kind of fine spines popping out. Occasionally it'll come out the sides as well. Now here is a Trisha rootstock. So I wanted to try Trisha out as a rootstock. You can see it's pretty large. And this was, again, a new growth. And I just cut the tip off here of the rootstock and then attached a seedling tip. And this is Trisha with a unknown variety. And so I'm excited to see how much it's growing. And if you look really closely, it's got some growth on the side here. So definitely this method works. I am 4 out of 5, which is an 80% accuracy. So I'm gonna show you how to do this correctly. So Scott, let's go outside of this greenhouse. It's a little hot, and I'm gonna show them how to use this nice young piece here of new growth to make a successful graft with a seedling tip. First thing off, you do need to clean your tools. So I used rubbing alcohol, and I'm even gonna use this little area so it's ready and clean. So why this graft will fail is because some people are going to use a mature rootstock with that really developed core in there. You do not want a rootstock with that core. Instead, you're going to want to use a really young growth. As you can see, this is a brand new shoot, and this nice rooted rootstock is going to channel all its energy into this. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do this, and I'm going to use some very rare Asunta seedlings.
Those are small, man.
Yeah, well, I think I can do it. And
this can be a challenge.
Well,
I want to see this. I want to see this.
Well, I've done smaller, believe it or not. So these are from a buddy James out in, and it's actually a funny story because these seedlings actually come from California. They flew to Texas. They were shipped back to California for me to grow. So I'm excited to see how they do, and let's get to work.
All right, let's see this.
All right, so first I'm gonna go up here, and I'm gonna make a nice straight cut. So probably about here. Now notice the core. Look at up here, Scott, at the core here.
Yeah, tip it a little.
And you can see that it's definitely going to be perfect. It's a young, undeveloped, unwoody core. So now that I've done that, and I did touch it, so I'm gonna recut it.
You're grafting youth to youth.
Yes, there you go. Good analogy. Now look down here.
All right.
And I'm not gonna graft it with anywhere else but about the top piece. So I will, just to be safe, use rubbing alcohol to clean it. And you probably should use a sturdier thing than this cardboard, but it's gonna work, don't worry. Nice straight cut. So you can see my seedling tip there.
Got it.
And now I'm just gonna place it. I like to do it by hand. This is pretty small.
So it's small.
But if I just get it on a decent connection, I think I can get it to work. So it's not a perfectly straight, there.
And you get a shot of that there.
Okay, I'm gonna let it go. And I know I didn't cut it straight, but that is gonna be a successful union in my opinion. Now, in the past I used to bag them, but that's going to probably affect this. So what I do is I literally just put it right here, very carefully, and leave it alone for about 2 weeks, just like that.
Shade.
This is gonna be a full shade. It's on the north side of our greenhouse. And honestly, that's all I do. So I forget about it and I just don't touch it. I make sure the wind's not gonna affect it. This is a nice calm spot in the yard and this is gonna work.
And we already did a video on kind of how to do this a little bit more intricately, so you can check that out if you want to.
Yeah, this is kind of an update, but then what I've learned from my one failure. So now this should be 5 successes out of 6 attempts.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, you know, it's a learning process. It's okay to fail at grafting, trust me. I've done it plenty.
Yeah, there's not that much to lose, you know. You just gotta try stuff, and if it works, it works. Sometimes you have all
plenty more seedlings.
Exactly.
And if I wanted to, I could have just cut the tip of a seedling and kept it in the soil,
right,
and that seedling still would have grown. But I have plenty in here, and I'm honestly starting to feel a little bit confident about this grafting method to know that if I use this young rootstock, it's going to be successful.
Hey, looks like a good winner technique there.
So give it a shot. Give us a like, subscribe, have a wonderful day. By the way, you can also, instead of using a seedling, you could use some really new growth like this. So you could hypothetically cut this tip and graft it using the same method. I suspect it would work fine.